Hey everybody. The drone I've been flying for the past few months is the Phantom 3 Standard, which is a great learner drone, but its main limitation is that the radio system uses straightforward Wi-Fi. That really limits the range and it's prone to interference. So I installed an ITElite DBS booster antenna. The next day I went out to my favorite spot by the Des Moines River to test it out, but it was super windy. I think I had about 40-mile-an-hour winds, and as you can see here, that current on the river is not current, that's just the wind blowing the surface of the water. And the drone was blowing sideways more than it was making progress toward the High Trestle Trail Bridge. So here I turned around and headed south, and suddenly instead of going 4 miles an hour, I was going 50 miles an hour because of the tailwind. So I decided to scrub my attempt to break my old record and flew south for a while. I did break my record to the south and went about 7,900 feet south. Those high power lines there I think are kind of what limit me that direction. By the way, that's the north end of Saylorville Lake up to the left. So I hit return to home, or the drone went into return to home here because the signal dropped out. And it's trying to get back to me, but the wind is blowing it off to the east. So I took back control from return to home and gave it full throttle and gradually made progress against the wind, but I was only going about 4 miles an hour. There were a couple of times where I was actually looking for alternative landing sites to the left where I could retrieve it, but I brought it in lower and it finally started making progress against the wind, and I was able to bring it in pretty quickly and land after that. So I went back the next, about 3 days later. You can see the water is much more placid here, really calm winds, and so I headed straight for the Trestle Trail Bridge. My previous record of 8,416 feet was just past the Trestle Trail Bridge, which is a well-known recreational path here. So I flew past it to about the point where my old record was. I had plenty of signal strength, so I turned it north and headed toward the town of Madrid, which is up there to the right, and across this highway. And it just kept going. I had no video dropouts, and just kept flying. And I quickly passed 10,000 feet. It was going about 35 miles an hour at this point, which is about what it does when there's no wind. And the drone just kept flying, and I was reading off every time it would pass a 500-foot mark, and looked at the signal strength and looked at the battery charge remaining, and eventually you'll see it pause here, and that's when the signal drops out and return to home function kicks in. And the final record was 14,258 feet. I don't really think I'd want to go much past that because of battery limitations. If there were any sort of wind at all, I'd start flirting with not having enough battery power to get me back. So you can see here when it turns, it's pointing straight back to where I took off. And that record, by the way, isn't the distance of the flight. It's the distance between the drone straight line to me. The total flight at this point was probably about 16,000 feet. And so on the way back, I stopped and flew over the Trestle Trail Bridge. It was a beautiful evening, so there were quite a few walkers and cyclists and even a skateboarder or two out. And a few bugs zoomed past the lens. The bridge is about 136 feet tall, and I'm a good 75 or 100 feet above that. And the sun was starting to set, so I called it a night, but I eventually landed with about 33% battery, and I'm going to call that, for safety margin, that's about as far as I'm going to want to go. So thank you for watching.